What do we like about midsize SUVs and which one is the best? First of all, for our friends in the US, the cars that we have here might still be compact. However, in Europe we say midsize because Porsche Macan, Mercedes GLC, BMW X3, Audi Q5, Volvo XC60, they all share the same platforms with their respective mid-size sedans like Mercedes C-Class, BMW 3 Series, Audi A4 and Volvo S60. So the mid-size SUVs we have here are bigger than their compact SUV brothers, which are mainly for city use, but still smaller than their bigger brothers Porsche Cayenne, Mercedes GLE, BMW X5 and Volvo XC90. And that's also why I find them so interesting. So if you don't have huge parking spots, you still need to go inside the city, but you are already wanting a great comfort and luxury, that might be the sweet spot. Indeed, these SUVs here do offer more comfort and features than their smaller brothers and sisters, especially for taller people. And another big difference is that they offer bigger engines, whereas for example Mercedes GLB or GLA, Audi Q3, BMW X1 do not offer 6 cylinders, except Volvo doesn't do that at all. And for most SUVs we show here today, you can also get air suspension. So let's dig deeper now into exterior, interior and driving thoughts of all those mid-size SUVs. Enjoy this comparison episode in each part and tell us in the comments later on which one is your favorite and why. And of course, we will tell you which one is our favorite in a very thorough conclusion. Welcome to my review here with the Porsche Macan facelift. Let's go! In the front, what has the facelift changed? Well, the fog lamps went away and you have a new daytime running light here in the lower area. LED is now from standard and optional you can get adaptive LED lights. I think this is a very good example for a nice sleek SUV design. There's always the problem with designing SUVs because they're just higher, so they tend to look a little bit clumsier than lower cars, but I think they manage it here quite well. Just round design scheme here overall. 18 to 21 inch wheels are available. Those ones are the top wheels here. I'll talk about later about those ones here as for the comfort. Coming to the rear of the vehicle, you see the biggest difference from the exterior since the facelift, and that is this light strip that goes all over the vehicle now, corresponding also to their all new models. I think it fits the car very well and also straddles the width a little bit more. Other than that, still a very round design scheme. That's always special here when you open the hood. The light stays down and then those gaps in top of the hood. Very interesting with the Macan. Today the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, 6.5 seconds is the acceleration, 245 horsepower. With the sports chrono package, of course, this 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour acceleration. Then there's also a 3-liter V6 in the Macan S with 354 horsepower, 5.4 seconds acceleration figure, so about a second faster. And then there's the new downsized 2.9-liter V6 turbo with 440 horsepower in the Macan turbo. Since the facelift, what changes do we have here? Well, it's mostly about the infotainment screen, but we'll soon take a detailed look at that from another perspective. So far, let's talk about the seats. They are base seats that then rather go like straight here and also in the left area. Those ones here are the adaptive sport seats that have a wider shoulder area right there and also bigger bolsters in this and also in the lower part. Besides that, as for the surfaces, as a standard Macan, both also in Europe and the US, the middle parts usually come with Alcantara and the outside then leather red. And the great thing is you get them in black, in beige like here, but also in gray. Those three colors available, also with nice Alcantara.
Welcome to this updated interior. Main element here, this new screen, 11-inch. That's the biggest news. Well, you have just a clearer view. Everything is bigger and wider and also easier to control. This one here is the GPS, for example. Suit more details to that. Steering wheel right here again with just a few controls right there. The right side here, right thumb to control the very small screen on the right side part here. Rather classic instrument with this analog dials. Well, the right one, of course, is then the screen. For example, also with all-wheel drive information or also then the GPS map if the GPS is running. And on the left side, you have the volume control. Nice shifting pedals here too. You still have some hotkeys here for the infotainment screen and also the volume control here, so steering wheel and here. Then the lower console here, you know, there are a lot of buttons still. Do you like that? Do you like it separated like this one here, or is it maybe too much? I like it at the temperature control is still manual. However, it's not that easy to control as you would just have a turning knob, but that one is still separated right here. When we drive, we also talk about those different driving modes. And this automatic gearbox here, quite high, this lever we see. They nowadays also in the all new cars put very, very small ones where you can almost shave with. Well, that's an insider, you get it when you watch the 911 review. And there are also adaptive cup holders right there. And then you have an armrest, by the way, shake test here, pretty well attached. And underneath you have two USB supplies, put your smartphone, and also below that some other clutter. And this is the new infotainment screen here with a nice CPU unit. You see here, pinch and zoom works pretty well. You also get somewhat like a feedback with the clicks. Phone either via Bluetooth or with Apple CarPlay, then with the cable connection, and then you can go right here. This is the integration. You can at the same time see the GPS because it has this wide screen, very interesting.
Let's get inside here, and it is an SUV, mid-size SUV, and therefore you also have some decent upright seating position. However, I always raise the back part of the seat a little bit higher, so this would be the lowest position. And when it is 86 or 6'1", still leaves plenty of headroom. If you go for the optional panoramic roof, you will have a little bit less headroom, but you see, it will still also work for tall people. So I put the back part of the seat always a little bit more upright, so the seating position is a little bit more upright, you have better overview and also more long-term comfort. Well, if AJ and I test the very same vehicles, always take into account that AJ is a little bit smaller, so that's more helpful if also you are also maybe rather his size, and if you're rather my size, then it's better for you to watch my review too, or maybe just compare those, because AJ was quite fine here in the rear, but I'm actually not, so the package of this vehicle is not the best. Yes, it's shorter than the Cayenne, but then again, for the length of this vehicle, it does not offer so much rear legroom. That's rather disappointing, so I do hit the seat here with my knees, and I'm in the driving position I would be driving indeed. Headroom-wise, that's no problem, and I really love this beautiful Alcantara ceiling. Then there's also some USB supplies here, two USB supplies in the rear, next to, if you want, additional climate zone, ISOFIX at the outer parts of the seats. And there's also an armrest with cup holders right there. And you can even use this one here as a ski hatch. It's always a little bit funny because you open the Macan trunk right here at the wiper. And then as for the measurements, here you can have about just under a meter in length and just about a meter in width. That's totally okay. And in height right there at this cover, about 50 centimeters, of course, a little bit less in the front area. Liter figures here is 500 liters like this and 1,500 liters if I flip the seats. Here. And if you want the best comfort, the air suspension will do best, yes. and then you might as well spend the extra money on that. So where an air suspension is available, I think usually it's also good to go for it. With BMW it's not that necessary because their normal adaptive suspension are really that superb that you also have a lot of comfort even if you didn't pick the extra air suspension. Here you definitely have more comfort when you have the air suspension, no doubt. And well, together with this 21-inch wheels, the suspension is indeed quite stiff. Think about this engine here in the Golf, for example, 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. We also end up with about 8. We can also drive it at 7. This one's a little bit heavier. This one is an SUV, so something close to 9 is realistic. If you keep it slow, you can of course exceed it. That would be some 29 mpg US or 31 mpg in the UK, something in that region. Now when we're going uphill, it's of course also a little bit more. And we soon now get to our high-speed part. Before that, someone will he overtake us? Come on, show our viewers. There it is. Thank you. Thanks. So that was the blind spot monitor. Also a very important safety feature. You should definitely go for that. And yeah, sadly, Porsche makes you pay extra for almost everything. Now we'll also go to the sports mode. The sports mode will turn up the RPMs a little bit higher. Will give us a little bit more sound and also change not only the shifting characteristics, also the throttle input, for example. And we'll get that now on the motorway part where we can really accelerate it out and see, is this still, performance-wise, a real Porsche? So we'll let this, now we go for fun of this car. 50 kilometers to whatever. That's 150. So that was 50 to 150. And directly some comments to high-speed driving. Now we're about 160. And see, it's not too loud here. So that's still somewhat reasonable. So I'm fine with that. And the car also remains very stable. In the sports mode, also the suspension, when you have the adaptive suspension or also the air suspension, which is also an adaptive one, then also the suspension goes a little bit stiffer to have a little bit more control over the car. So it really feels very good at high speeds. Of course, that's something what a Porsche also stands for. And now to our conclusion for today with the Porsche Macan here in the recent facelift and also the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. Exterior-wise, one of the sleekest SUVs in this mid-size SUV segment, so to me still a beauty. The facelift changes, it's a matter of taste, maybe a little bit more elegant here with these new daytime running lights. I mean, why not, but not the biggest change. The big change is really on the interior with this new infotainment system. I think that's good, especially the CarPlay integration is a little bit better than before. And also, just have, the wider screen can do more things. Still a lot of buttons left there too. Great build quality also in the interior. You also get some nice Alcantara seats, even just as a base trim. And you can also save some money. And that would also be my tip because, well, this engine here, yes, it's still a real Porsche performance-wise. Of course, you don't have the same, one-to-one, same performance as with the bigger engine. And also maybe the bigger engine gives you a little bit more confidence on the road and maybe a little bit more sound. But still, if you just ask about the performance, that's just it. My tip here again, don't go for such big wheels here or pick the air suspension also. That's a very good feature. Other than that, you really have to pay attention the car does not get too expensive because, well, if you stick rather to the base price, then it might make sense also to keep with the base engine. But then again, if you spec a car like this and make it so expensive, then it's the question if you can also top up with the next engine. But of course, I want to hear your opinion here on the Porsche Macan with a facelift, and also the question 2-liter versus 3-liter and also 4-cylinder versus 6-cylinder. What do you think, guys? Join us for a review of the Mercedes GLC facelift as GLC 300. Let's go. Here in the front we can see main change with the facelift are those new daytime running lights together with new headlamps. Standard now LED, optional, the one you can see here, the multi-beam LED for more high beam support. This here in the standard line has this dual horizontal fin grille. In the AMG line it would have this diamond pin grille, which would be my favorite as for the exterior design. 4.65 m, 15'3" or 183 inches is the length of the GLC SUV. You know, it's also available as a GLC Coupe, which would have the main difference, and it has a falling roofline right there. Then wheels start from 17 to 19 inch in the normal GLC specs, which you can see here, the 19-inch ones in the AMG line. There's 19 or 20 inch, so a little bit bigger, and the GLC 63 even goes up to 21 inch, which is then very massive for this mid-size SUV. In the rear we can now see a modern tail lamp signature here. This is definitely fancier, so that's the main facelift change. GLC 300 badge. Overall then, I think, you know, not too much screaming out in the rear, rather round design. And the lower end here, this is typical fake exhaust tip. There's nothing in it, so the real exhaust underneath, yeah, dirt, fake exhaust, Ailed and Autogefuel. Here we go with the engine. Yay, hydraulic struts, love that. But I mean, for a vehicle that is between 40 and 80k, we can expect that. So 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engines like today also. There's a GLC 200 with around 200 horsepower and a GL3 300 with about 250 horsepower, 255 in US, 258 in Europe, so they're different just a little bit. 6.2 seconds is the acceleration figure, and here in the all-wheel drive today in the US it's also available as rear-wheel drive. And new with the facelift is that those two engines, the 2-liter 4-cylinder engines, come with an MHEV system, 48-volt board net for more recuperation, and also those sailing or coasting functions. Talking about more about that when we drive the car very soon. Here you can see the instruments, all digital now, optional with this facelift, soon more to that, but you can see that at the moment it's all shut off. And then those seats here, again today in beige, but the animal skin spec, how do you see that? They have a little bit more elements here. Those elements you can see there and count. If it would be the Artico, sustainable and animal friendly leather red seat, then it would have, I think, 5 elements in this back part, so that's how you can visually differentiate them. The Artico seat's really high class, and in Europe, especially Germany, you can get also a fabric base seat. Then you can get fabric on the inside and leather red on the outside, which would be an awesome mix. And then also in the US, you can get a full Artico seat. And the cool thing, they offer it in black, beige, gray, brown and red. So Mercedes offers one of the widest choices of different, more sustainable interior materials. Really well done as for the choice. And Dynamica on the inside, microfiber, and Artico on the outside would be for the AMG line. Then you have a little bit sportier and a little bit stickier on the seat when you go into those corners. Phew, yeah, so many things to tell you about the seating choices. You should check out the configurator or the build, how you call it in the US, and just play around with that a little bit. That's really a lot of fun in this case here also with the GLC. The new steering wheel with the facelift, you can see here left side is for the cruise control now, not a separate column. It's easier to set, and also those touch field, right button for the right thumb right there. This is then to control the right screen, and left thumb, left button for the left screen. This is also new. Now let's get inside. Pretty easy entry. You already have an upright SUV seating position. That's cool. Somewhat similar to the BMW X3 as for the height, overall position and so on. Steering wheel has an electric function here. That's not base, that's an option. So it goes in and out and also up and down quite a lot actually. So welcome to this interior. Let's turn everything on. You start with analog gauges on the left, and optional those full digital 12.3 inch now with the facelift. And on the right side you start with a smaller 7-inch screen, and optional this 10.25 inch screen. And both feature the MBUX, this new voice input system where you can, for example, say, "Hey Mercedes."
How may I help you?
Drive me to Berlin.
I am starting route guidance to Berlin.
So that's really perfect. You can change temperature, turn on off head-up display, even open and close the sunroof and so on. The best system there is on the market, and BMW on
Please proceed to the
place 2 at the
highlighted
moment.
route.
So they're newest only in the big cars, not in the X3. So their new BMW natural voice input system also pretty cool. So that's one thing. Soon more deals to each of those screens. And again here the steering wheel, which is a little bit more fancy than before. Volume control here on the right side, and here with my right thumb I can control the right screen, and you can also see how that works. But redundant controls I can also do it like here with a touch, or touchscreen, and is of course also one of the new big news. And then here in the lower console I can use this touchpad, that's also an option, and I can write an address there too. This is possible. And then with the left thumb I can control stuff here in the digital instruments and also change the styles and so on. And now to those digital instruments here, yeah, we can also rev it up then right there. And interesting thing is here, for example, you can have the fuel economy then right there. This is our realistic fuel economy at the moment. And the head-up display right there. The speed, you can also see the allowed speed and also some GPS information. So it's a very nice option. And the speed itself is the crispest, clearest one of that part. The other parts maybe a little bit out of focus from time to time, but overall it's still very helpful. And some more details about this screen. For example, let's take a look at the GPS up close. So it's a nice visualization, also zoom in and out, and usually also quite responsive. And the Apple CarPlay integration looks like this. Does not use all the way off the screen, but mostly the CarPlay is also not the widest screen format, and this optional Mercedes sound system here is delivering a very crystal clear sound. Awesome. The rear view camera is quite good as well too, by the way. Also shows you those helping lines, they adapt, and then you also have this drone view from above. But you can also set it to different views here on the right side, like to, all the way rear, for example, or that one here. And I want to show you also another example of this one here, so where the tires are being seen left and right. For example, if you approach a car wash and then you don't want to damage your wheels, then you can really adapt that. Yeah, that's cool, right? And also do the front view camera. So, but that's of course the optional, most sophisticated camera system there is available. Now to the rear, also with a nice soft touch article on the inside doors and the matte wood. That's awesome. Mr. Sound system here as well, and yeah, it does exactly fit. Those gaps here in the back of the seat, they are really helpful to give you some more knee room. It does exactly fit then for 4 tall adults. Here we go. Trunk can also be opened with a foot kick opening mechanism. Then you can actually lock this lower part. That's a pretty cool function. Then we have more storage underneath, and that's pretty square dimensions. And I really love this top cover, which has rails on the side, and it's very, very clean solution. On the right side to flip the seat, and also on the left side, together with when you have the air suspension, you can also lower the car just a little bit. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Mercedes GLC in this facelift version. And as I told you initially, I'm going to talk about how does it feel differently from the pre-facelift. How does it feel differently from the BMW X3, one of the main competitors, and also from the Mercedes GLE, the bigger brother, if you're thinking about comparing those. And one of the changes here is that those 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engines are now MHEV, so mild hybrid systems. So with a battery that is bigger than a normal car battery, in the eco mode, the throttle input is being drawn back, and more attention to better fuel economy and so on, earlier shifting up and I can see if there's a power output from this MHEV system, or if there is this, by the way, the warning system here, the blind spot monitor, and if I set the turning indicator, then I also get an acoustic warning. Pretty good system, and you already experienced that as for the assistance now. So when I'm rolling downhill now in the eco mode, what's the car doing? It's recuperating a little bit, but also rolling. So it's more using a rolling
If I go, for example, to the comfort mode, it doesn't change so much as for the recuperation because it's still rolling. If I go to the sports mode, I have actually more engine brake because the car is, a gear lower, and the interesting thing is, it's charging more. So this is really interesting. I would have. Wait a minute. Now it's. But now it's charging more in the eco mode. So not always sure why is it doing that way or that way. Because when we were at the beginning of the hill, the car wasn't charging that much. Maybe it's a thing, but when the car realized we're going down it for a longer time or so, that then the recuperation sets in. And this is really interesting because now the charging is less again, and now we are in the sailing mode. This is very interesting. So the RPMs dropped to 0, and now we're rolling and the engine is shut off. So, and this is a thing that is predominantly happening in this eco mode. So now we're sailing. Now to increase the speed once again a little bit more. That won't work that well when you are in the Distronic, in the cruise control mode, by the way. And I mean, that's really interesting because the sailing or coasting thing is something that should be favored by this MHEV system. So that's the reason to do that. And of course, using the recuperation then to get you some electric boost. I mean, for performance reasons, that's one thing. And the other thing is also when you are, getting started just from the traffic light, that you can save some fuel by adding this, electric power to it, which was again gained from recuperation earlier. So yeah, definitely very interesting first impressions. The question is always, does it make a huge difference in the fuel economy overall? And so far, from all our tests, we could say, if you have a proper plug-in hybrid system with a good recuperation, then this even made sense for the fuel economy, even if you were not recharging all the time. But those MHEV systems with the smaller batteries, on paper they were usually better, but then in real-life driving tests, usually it didn't play such a role for the fuel economy, and here as well. So, well, now in winter time, but even without using AC, we had numbers on long-term driving, which were actually a little bit worse than 9 liters or more kilometers, worse than 26 mpg US, 31 mpg UK. So that's already something good if you reach that, but usually the numbers were even a little bit worse. That is a little bit worse than we recently had with the BMW X3 with the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. So the BMW engine seems to be a little bit more economical in this case, but not too big of a difference. And again, it doesn't seem that this MHEV system would play a major role. I will check it once again when we're finished with this round, definitely on the fuel economy. Other than that, the facelift didn't change much as for the driving characteristics. I mentioned earlier that there are different suspensions available, base suspension, off-road or bad road suspension, which sits a little bit higher, sport suspension, which sits a bit lower, and then that's just a couple of €100 extra each, like 300 and 400. And then if you're going adaptive, like a little more than 1,000 euros or dollars, then you go with the adaptive suspension, which is already a nice choice. Definitely have more variety in the comfort and sportiness. And then this one, which we have inbuilt here today, more than 2,000 euros extra, is the air body controls. So this one is the air suspension, and quite exclusively also for this segment, the Audi Q5 does offer that, for example, too. But the BMW X3, for example, not. Well, the adaptive suspension of the BMW X3 is really very, very good. So you're not missing an air suspension. And BMW has a very good compromise between sportiness and comfort. Here, so the compromise is better with the BMW. But here, the overall comfort is even a little bit better when you have the air suspension. Again, very smooth as for the steering wheel, even though it's not the sportiest one. Upright seating position, very comfortable on the long run. And I can, when I want to have the head-up display on, I'll just say, hey Mercedes, head-up display on, and then it's already happening, you know.
What can I do for you?
Head-up display on.
The head-up display is on.
So then it was already on in this case, but I mean, that's pretty cool. Natural voice input and some stuff you don't have to search in the menu, and that's already it. So that's also very, very well done. The engine is very silent, very calm, especially when you are in the cruising modes all the time. I mean, the MF changes, yeah, it's nice. You can have some recuperation, but it's not like a major game changer. We've been running downhill now quite a lot of time. That's why the fuel economy is quite good at the moment. But still, that's, you know, around 9 liters. Although we have been, what's happening here? It's an accident. So although it was downhill, you know, a lot of times, that should be way better now, you know. So fuel economy, not happy with that. Would have expected more from this MF system. So sports mode, by the way, when I mean, sports plus, there's no one here at the moment. Let's just accelerate a little bit, see how much power this car has for you. So let's just go. So that's 70 kilometers an hour already. That went quite quick, and the absolute figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour would be 6.2 seconds. So yes, very silent and refined, this engine, but if you want the power, wow, you have it. And that felt to me even a little bit more spontaneous than the X3 I've just ridden like yesterday or like 2 days ago in the US. Maybe in this case, yeah, the MF is not that important for the fuel savings, but for the power boost. And now to our conclusion for the day with the Mercedes GLC here as the facelift. Exterior changes, not that much, of course. Yeah, lamps, new LED standard is good. Yeah, the daytime running light, or I'd say like the signature in the tail lamps also look more modern, a little bit cooler. Overall, an elegant design, definitely overall for the car. Interior, high build quality, and also vast choices of animal-friendly material. That is really where they are leading, together with Tesla, of course, who made that standard anyway. Also with those infotainment systems, upgrades, this is also pretty fancy. If you go for that one, it's an option, yes. But the MBUX is gladly standard, so with this voice input and so on, this is really leading on the market at the moment. And also some decent space they have there, especially flexible trunk system. That's pretty cool when you have that electric flipping system especially. Driving wise, so great, very well insulated. And wow, the air suspension is really so comfortable in this segment, leading in this segment to me. As for the comfort, yeah, maybe the BMW X3, for example, is a bit more sportier fun. But this one here, the Comfort King then, as for that. Definitely one of the best cars overall in the segment, and I also mentioned that in the driving part. Recently, at least for a German rating, you know, with the TÜV ratings, so where they check the cars on, you know, mostly 2 or 3 year basis. This one here also scored the best result overall from all cars that have been tested. So it seems also to be a very reliable one. Then also, if you think about the engine, now with the new MHEV system, was a little bit disappointed that the fuel economy wasn't better. So that was actually one of the very few bad results about this review. However, the boost was a little bit better, so I felt that, you know, it was a little bit faster, more explosive as for the acceleration with this additional electric boost. So, for solving the fuel economy problem, that's maybe where the new PHEV could step in, the 300e, and I hope to test that one also at a later stage. Now, I'm also looking forward to your comments, and also taught you a little bit more GLC versus GLE. In this case, this one here, especially with the facelift now, offers so many stuff that GLE is also offering that the difference between GLC and GLE is somewhat diminishing. Of course, there's some differences, also mentioned those, but has been smaller now. Now, finished for the day. I hope I gave you a lot of interesting insight. Hope you enjoyed this episode together with us. And please also tune into more relevant reviews we have in the video description, in the pinned comment, like a GLE review, X3 review, GLC 63 review. We will also link those, so when you're finished with this video, you can also tune into other ones and maybe save them for later or whenever. Thanks so much for tuning in today, especially to our long-term subscribers. So great to have you here. See you next time. You have chosen Autogefuel for a full review of the all-new generation of the BMW X3, and we will reward you with a full review here on the exterior, interior and the driving experience. The BMW double kidney has this active system that it opens or shuts on the inside depending on the cooling air needed for the engine. Those headlamps have a very interesting characteristical LED daytime running light structure. They come standard with LED. Optionally, you can also get the adaptive LED system. This is the so-called X line, so has this crossover look, and also with the gray or silver accentuations already in the lower bumper. 4.70 meters or 15'4" is the total length of this vehicle. Here the X3 and the X4 is the same length, just the X4 is dropping down here in this coupe style form. You can also check out the full review of the X4 later on after we finish with this one. Also, if you compare it to the X1, this one here is 27 centimeters longer. Why is that? Well, mainly because there's a longer front hood. Here you have the longitudinal engine mount, where you can also fit the 6-cylinder engines. The X1 with a front wheel driven platform, you have the transverse building platform for the engines in the very front. The rim size start from 18 inch, go up to 21 inch. Those ones here are 19 inch. I think it's a good compromise, a good choice. Maybe you think they look a little bit small here. The reason is we already have winter tires mounted here. In this case then the rims already appear a little bit smaller. This side breather here, air breather at the BMW Sunland, it's open and reduces the wind turbulences inside the wheel arches, but here just a design element, it's closed from the back part. In the rear the new generation has become more beautiful, I think, because those tail lamps are more horizontally drawn and have this new daytime running light signature. I think that's a good design job. But overall you see exterior and also some of the interior, I can already tell you, they rather have a conservative setup here with the X3, but that also doesn't annoy the so far customers because it's not so much different than the previous generation. They have real exhaust pipes on the exterior, you have to mention that nowadays, so nice with chrome there, both pipes, and the silver X-line contrast here again. Overall, I think it is basically, yes, a conservative layout, but it just fits. This is a mid-size SUV and still has this real SUV look. Wow, this has been properly cleaned. I love to take a look at those very cleaned up engine covers. Twin power turbo. So today we have the 30i, that's a 2-liter 4-cylinder with 252 horsepower, 6.3 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. This engine is also available at the 20i with the 184 horsepower spec. And then there's the M40i, the 3-liter 6-cylinder R6, 360 horsepower and 4.8 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour. And with that one you can also boost the price easily from this 40,000 base price to, well, 70,000 or something. And then there are the diesels, 20D, 2-liter, 190 horsepower, 25D, 213 horsepower. Then the 30D, that's the 3-liter 6-cylinder with 265 horsepower, or then with 326 horsepower as the M40D. Now let's get inside, and it's such an easy entry. It feels already like a well grown up SUV, so you don't have to go a segment higher to have this feeling. You already get that here with a mid-size SUV in the X3. Comfortable upright scenic position. If you compare it to the X4, you have more room, especially as for the A-pillar, because the X4 is flatter. This one here way more spacious, really feels good, and you feel immediately at home. If you compare to the X1, you sit higher in the X3, that's the difference. And also the front hood is more voluminous, so a little bit limited view here to the front lower part, but it's still quite okay to see. Since all the windows are standing upright, you also have a good round view. And the infotainment system up close, you can see you also have a touchscreen function, but you can still control it with the central turning knob in the lower middle console. Really nice that the GPS works pretty well as for the visual parts and also for the for the functioning. Here also you can check the consumption of the vehicle, for example, or see technology in action. If you, for example, have the sport displays, those are pretty interesting when you can turn up the power here, for example. Also, we will turn them on while we drive the vehicle. You also have those xDrive status that you can see, for example, the inclination and also compass info. So pretty interesting things they are offering here. The smartphone connection, by the way, either possible with Bluetooth or with Apple CarPlay. Here we go. Then wireless, BMW is offering that exclusively, but no Android Auto. BMW and Porsche refuse Android Auto because they say they do not handle the data in a care way as Apple does. Well, I do exactly fit in here with my knees, but it's really close. However, well, the X5 doesn't offer so much more legroom. So legroom, not the BMW specialty, not in most vehicles. And if you now compare it again to the X1, by the way, the X1 does not have less legroom. So the package of the X1 is definitely better. It's, really a lot shorter on the exterior, but it's not shorter by no means on the interior. Headroom, still plenty left, so this is no problem. There's a hanger, by the way, for the jackets right there. You also still have those door handles. And interesting, with the lower button here, you can also change the angle of the rear bench. That's cool if you rather want to sleep or maybe want to be more active in driving, sitting more upright. That's cool to have this option. And you can also flip the seats already from here, this bench, but this will be also possible from the trunk area. The capacity is 550 up to 1,600 liters if we flip the seats very soon. Here a cabin trolley to show you the dimensions, and you see they're very square, easier to access than in the X4, of course higher than, especially, really good. If you compare to the capacity of the X1, by the way, just 50 liters more here, so there's not a big difference in the rear area if we flip the seats right here and here. There we go, we have it all flat. Good loading possibility. The electric seats cannot be flipped completely to the front. I think you'll be just fine with this setup. The sound insulation has been improved significantly. At the moment, 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour on the clock. And it's really very silent and relaxing. Super relaxing. And also if we take a comparison to the BMW X4, which is basically the same vehicle, but here you have more room here on the A-pillar, as I said earlier. You feel more like in a travel mobile, like in comparison. The X4 really has this sportier approach. Also, we drove the sportier suspension there. It has a stiffer setup with the standard setup. This one here, a more comfortable suspension. I really like that. Still, it remains a rather sporty BMW SUV feeling, so you don't have a very soft carpet ride. You still see here when the lane change have a sporty approach, even if you're just in the normal comfort mode. So also in the standard setup here with winter tires, 19-inch rims, it remains sporty. If you just keep it really low key, you can score figures as low as 6 liters on 1 kilometers. But when you hammer it rather on the motorway, for example, you can go up into 8-9 liters, to 26 to 30 mpg, which is still quite decent. Let's go to the sport mode. In the sport mode, the gears are turned up higher, RPMs go higher. Now the car's automatically going a gear lower. And now let's do 70 kilometers to 100 kilometers. And whoop, and that was already 100. So you can see with the 4-cylinder here, 252 horsepower, way more than enough power. Now, shifting back times, that took a second, but you can also use the shifting pedals. M8, so ZF 8-speed automatic gearbox, one of the best automatic gearboxes there is on the market. Then you can also shift back here, M4. You can also see that I got the sport displays activated here in kilowatt power and Newton meters of torque. Pretty interesting for the co-driver maybe to look at. Now we're getting into a roundabout. Let's see about that. Agility. So here again, the steering wheel, yeah, luggage in the trunk is flying all over the place. So it gives me a good feeling, but it's not that I would say, it's not an SUV where I can say it's super much fun to drive it fast and sporty. And there is also an advantage then for the X1. The X1 is shorter, about 25 centimeters, and it's more fun to drive, it's more agile to drive. It was a little bit stiff with the M Sport suspension though, but without it, it's a good compromise. And now to our conclusion for today with the BMW X3. Well, on the exterior, it's already almost an X5 as for the exterior dimensions. Visually, of course, it's still shorter. And if you think about the X1 and the X4, X3 and the X4 are basically the same cars, just with a sportier setup for the X4 and of course this coupe style line. This one here makes more sense and it has more room on the inside, especially in the very rear, and is also softer in the right. The X1 is a little bit more agile, has a better package, so a lot of room on the inside without being so tall on the exterior as this one here already. However, the X3 is more confident in the ride, has a little bit more comfort and also the higher seating position. And you also have the 6-cylinder capacity if you want so. Overall, it's one of, for sure, the best mid-size SUVs on the market, especially because they have increased the noise insulation here in this very new generation. What do you think? We'll take a detailed look at the exterior, interior and the driving experience with the Q5. The only thing that's really screaming out is the big single frame grille here framed around. Then we got the headlights pretty much horizontally drawn. Standard, you know, they do not come with LED. Then you can get optional LED, or then here the highest trim, the matrix LED that also have the high beam function. And you see those accentuations on the hood to give the strength, a little accentuation right here for the front hood. That is also really making its debut here totally to the front. So I like it that when we don't have this split here in the front, that makes a more elegant design. 4.66 meters or 15'3" is the total length. It is now built in Mexico, in the federal state of Puebla. And people have been arguing about that quite a lot. And my experience from the first and now the second ride is you cannot really see in the quality that it's from Mexico, because the same quality standards apply. However, you can argue, I mean, why are they doing it? For cost savings, because the wages are way lower, but the customer doesn't profit from that. Rims, they go from 17 to 21 inch. This one here in the middle with 19 inch. And prices, they start, taking Germany as a reference, 40,000. Then with a 2-liter TDI, as we have here today, for example, with all-wheel drive, 50,000. And then if you add all the extras, and you can add so many extras here, then it gets really expensive. This very test vehicle, 70,000 euros. I think that's too expensive for a compact SUV. Then from the design layout, you see here again horizontal stress. Again, very clean design, and my personal favorite are those tail lights. They have this 3D layout, or you can really feel it, and then those, let's maybe say, tiger claws on the inside. And this is probably the most spectacular element of the exterior design. So what do we have? Engines. This is a 2-liter TDI, available as 150, 163 or here 190 horsepower, then already combined with the all-wheel drive. Then as a 3-liter TDI with 218 horsepower or 286 horsepower, and petrol engines. 2-liter TFSI 252 horsepower, we've driven that one in Mexico, and a 3-liter TFSI with 354 horsepower. What they've chosen here is a matte wood, it's an ash tree, or Esche in Germany, and that feels very well. I really like that they do that. High class build quality also here, and with the buttons, for example, here to open or close them. Seats, 2 basic forms, normal seat and an S Sport seats. The S Sport seats you have seen in the review from Mexico. I cannot recommend them, rather go for the non-sport seats as they offer you more space and are more comfortable. In Germany it starts with a fabric cover, I would go for that, or alternatively you can have microfiber on the inside but then animal skin on the outside. Audi sadly does it that way. This one here, they usually equipped all their test vehicles with full animal skin equipment, which get pretty hot in summer and cold in winter. Seating position here is actually quite good. Headroom. A lot of room still left here. The head-up display, speed information is over right there, and if you then want to change the height, you can see now it's out of the picture. Depending on you know, your personal height, you can really change it around, and there will also be, for example, GPS information or also information on the current allowed speed. The cockpit or instrument display starts with an analog one, then optional you can go for the virtual cockpit as we see it right now here. So fully digital, and you can also switch around the views a little bit. For example, go to a GPS view in the middle part. Cockpit overview. What is nicely done that they have also the design lines from the exterior also here included in the interior, like here for example with the horizontal layout. Here the plastics is just a little bit softened up, so something in between. 8.3 inch is the top screen you can have. You can also have smaller ones. Then you can see also, for example, with an Apple CarPlay integration. What is good is then when you have an internet connection and you click on phone, that you can also use it, you know, with voice commands. That is, you know, the advantage. Central MMI stick in the lower part, and here you can switch back to the car infotainment system then again, and also check out how the GPS looks right there, for example. You can go to the map directly like this, and with a satellite view here it of course looks really amazing. Then let's get inside. Let's see, and this is not a good result for a compact SUV. So you see the seats are pretty thick. Some space in front of my legs is still left, but we've seen way better packages. Then headroom, that is actually plentiful, that's no problem. So let's check the hatch, electric one here. Ta-da! This is very nicely done here. Feels also very good. Probably also prone to scratches, but this is high-class build quality. Then, see it here, it's not that you can just press it and then it falls down. That would be the best solution. Here you just have to do it like this, but it is here with some rails on the side, still a clean solution. So guys, let's go with our drive for today. And the earlier 2-liter TDI is here on right now. We'll start with a short ride on the Autobahn to show you the acceleration. And well, we can also go to the Audi Drive Select and have the dynamic mode, which will turn up the gears a little bit higher and therefore also helps us in the acceleration. So gears are turned up higher and also shifted earlier down again. So I would say from 50 to 100, something like that. Let's go. plop, that's it. So that was 50 to 100, and you see this is a really reasonable acceleration. It's of course not too powerful, but this engine here gives you way enough power. You know, this is also available with lower horsepower variants, but this one here, you know, you can also get the 3-liter TDI, so that would also be possible. But again, I mean, it's a very suitable engine for this car if you are still buying a diesel. If you think, you know, still want to have a diesel here, this one here makes actually a very good job because it is very silent. They're pretty well insulated. You've seen the performance is also good. I can also go back, for example, to the comfort mode, that I have a more comfortable ride. Here with the air suspension, that was also pretty funny, showing me in the display. When I go to the dynamic mode, also the car goes down just a little bit from the air suspension, that I have, you know, a little bit more control over the car. If I go to the auto mode, I'm in the neutral position. If I would go to the lift or lift off-road mode, then I could actually, oh, let's see. Well, turning circle is pretty good. Nice. That's well done. So if you go to this lift or off-road mode, you can have a little bit more ground clearance. That is also helping. So here in the corner, the car is pretty stable, although we have the air suspension, so there's no wobbling or what you say. Still, you know, pretty dynamic car. This is the normal mode, and then let's switch back to the dynamic mode again. Oh, more bottles here with some water making some noises. And yeah, here in the dynamic mode you get a little bit more feedback from the road. Suspension is also stiffer, so there's not that with some other vehicles, if you pick an air suspension, that you have to live with that all the time. So if you are in situations where you think, I need more feedback from the road or so, you can actually get it here too with the driving modes. But in general, you rather leave it in auto or comfort mode, really to get this kind of comfort, because I mean, this is what the air suspension is all about, a lot of comfort. So I would also rather go with that one. So let's go back to the auto mode. And the funny thing about this diesel here is, as it's so well insulated and also the acceleration comes pretty good, you really have to know you are driving a diesel. So the first time I got this vehicle, and I didn't really quite remember, wait a minute, was it with a diesel now, with a petrol engine? I went outside when the engine was running and just listened to, okay, it's a diesel, you know, because there's a different sound, you know, when just running in neutral, because it's really hard to recognize from the driving experience if it is a diesel. So yes, this is a very refined one. Also the consumption is pretty okay. Long term we have something between 6 and 7 liters on 100 kilometers. Here, now in a heavier traffic situation, we can also talk about the assistance systems. You see the blind spot monitor is flashing here 3 yellow LEDs when the car is next to us, and when we activate the turning indicator, it's also flashing really to give even increased warning. Then let's activate the adaptive cruise control. I also see it in the head-up display that it's now activated. So I'm doing nothing with brakes or throttle at the moment. And then the distance is kept in the car to the car in front of me. And I mean, maybe we're also lucky that we come to a standstill here in the traffic, which would normally be not being lucky, but then you could also see that the traffic assist system is working. So if the car is not standing still for a long time, it automatically also continues driving again. Just if it took some seconds, then you, for example, pull the ACC lever just once, and then the car keeps rolling again. And this is pretty helpful because you can really rather relax when being in traffic then. Steering wheel is actually quite large, but you know, it's not hindering you while driving. You have to think also that with your hands and your arms, you see, is also in a pretty neutral position, at least for me now. So I found that pretty okay. Now we may be coming to a standstill. Yes, we're in super traffic. We can test the assistance systems. I didn't expect, but we once were feeling lucky when being stuck in traffic. So let's see. Oh, there's a nice doggy in front of us also. So now coming. Hello, Mr. Doggy. Now almost standstill at least. Well, 4 kilometers. You see now the car is accelerating again. That's really helpful in traffic situations. Also, the sound insulation is so good here in that vehicle that you hardly hear something from the outside. That is also very helpful. So, and the sound system, we have the optional Bang & Olufsen mounted here, and that is also giving us good sound. Pretty good 3D surround sound. I like that. So if you're liking music, that one will also be something for you. And now the conclusion for today, Audi Q5. So this here in the second ride, already with the first ride, was pretty impressive. Exterior, really a conservative layout, but with a lot of elegance, just, you know, subtle design lines we can see. And overall, I think it is suitable for the overall market, because as I said earlier, usually, you know, a lot of comments are, you know, make something more spicy, but then at the real sales, if cars are rather conservative in the design, they often sell more, especially for fleet customers, for example. Interior then, very well processed, as we know from Audi, with, you know, some elements I mentioned, for example, you know, the inside of the doors in the front, they should really be covered, not only with some hard plastics, everything else great with the knob sound and, you know, the matte wood. It was also pretty well done. Again, also rather conservative layout. So overall, I mean, if you want a very joyful car as a compact SUV in the premium segment, that's not your car. If you want everything cleanly laid out with the elegance, then it's probably rather your choice. Driving wise, it's definitely among the top in its segment, especially here with the air suspension. You can adjust it how hard you really want to have it while riding. You have those driving modes and you have great comfort, but still a sporty ride, also with an agile riding feeling. So a lot of things they are doing very well here. If you compare it, for example, to a Mercedes GLC, Mercedes is clearly leading it and offering more alternatives to animal skin, for example, something Audi is really lacking majorly. Engine-wise, you know, the diesel, 4 diesel, is really a very good performance, but more and more feedback is also coming that you want to see more petrol, CNG or electric engines. And let's, I mean, freely discuss it. So far, if you run 40,000-50,000 kilometers a year, diesel is still the way to go, but more alternatives are of course evolving. Overall, I think they really have a big stance here in the compact SUV market that is not changing with the owner generation, that has been refined in all of the different steps, the different elements they have here. Thank you so much. Let's hear your feedback. What do you think about the Audi Q5? A detailed look on the exterior, different trim levels on the outside and also different trim levels on the inside. We'll present you everything of that and also the driving experience. You also have the Thor's Hammer LED lights, also the turning indicators here. When you open the car, you see how the signature is pretty interesting, and comes with LED lights here also in the top trim level. This one is the inscription, and therefore we also have chrome vertical fins right there. It will look different in other trim levels. I will soon show you, for example, the R design. And you know, to save money, I always advise you to go for low or mid trim levels, that you don't pay too much money. 4,68 meters or 15'3" is the total length of the all-new XC60. Not so much different to the predecessor, 4 centimeters longer this one, but the wheelbase has been lengthened to create more space in the interior. We will see later on if that really works. Really excited. Still, this vehicle here is 27 centimeters shorter than the XC90. Again, it's rather a timeless design, also with a rather round structure, whereas the front was a little bit more angular. I think overall, it is really a very good design, seamless design. What's your take? Which is your favorite compact SUV design-wise at the moment? Then this interior, I love the styling from the bright interior. Wow! However, as it is the highest trim of the inscription, the seat is all animal skin, at least the inside parts. But there's a good alternative. It's called City Weave. You can get it, for example, in the Momentum trim level. And then you have a fabric mix with some Scandinavian checkered blue design and then bright leatherette on the outside. You can take a look at it as a photo on our website too. And just look it up in the configurator. You save money, you have a more sustainable solution, and it really, I think it looks even better. And you also have good climate comfort when fabric is on the inside, just for seating longer terms. You sweat less, and it's also not that cold in winter as with this one here. Also great design from the steering wheel in this contrast here. I just love this interior from the style. And as I said, I'm glad that there are also sustainable options you can go for. Because here with the inscription trim level, I will tell you the very prices in the end, but with the top trim and all of the options here, the car really gets too expensive. So you have to be aware that you don't exceed the options. Seating, first of all, the steering wheel can be adjusted, and if you compare it to models before, this one is a very smooth mechanism now. I do feel this car has better build quality also than the XC90. Cockpit overview. This is definitely a car where you say, wow, Scandinavian design, really pretty, especially with this matte wood. It doesn't leave any fingerprints, feels very well, it looks superb and has this clean Scandinavian nature design. Then you got for example, the adaptive cruise control, or then also the pilot assist control functions right there on the steering wheel. And the instruments, you see, they're all dark at the moment. They are optionally fully digital. Either you get 8-inch or then optional this one here, 12.3 inch. And then you can also start the engine. You can see all of them with the modern digital display, which has the advantage that you can also, for example, have GPS information in there. And there's now also a head-up display with a clear visual displayment, and also GPS information can be seen there. Definitely a nice option. So this infotainment system, like in the XC90, has one button as the home screen, and then everything is sorted here. For example, for the sound system, you can pick different settings here. Phone you can either add via Bluetooth, or also if you scroll here, you can use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Then the GPS looks like this. You can also put it a little bit bigger right there. And see also it's quite responsive. You also can zoom in and out. That's obviously the high zoom. And you see it takes some time to load. That could be a little bit faster. I got the seat as I would be driving, and you can see that it still leaves me enough knee room. So even here in the rear, I would not need an XC90 really. Headroom wise, well, that's close. But again, this is with a panoramic roof. If you want more headroom for rear passengers, then you should leave out the panoramic roof. The trunk, electric hatch we have right here. Also again, bright interior. I love that style. You see the cover here moves up automatically, directly with the hatch. Below here, by the way, nice aluminum covers. Then we have a spare tire right there. A 12-volt power supply on the left side. And let's take a comparing look at the R design trim level. Sporty look with aggressive spoilers in the lower part, the front grille in glossy black with horizontal elements, then with those pins here to have a more aggressive look overall. Which is your favorite? Those ones here are the 21-inch optional big wheels. They are really huge, and I'm not sure about the riding comfort. I would rather go with the 19-inch, for example. They still look great and give you a little bit more comfort. Then also here those aluminum caps. I think not the best decision to go with a white color combination, but if you pick a blue exterior, that will make a great match for sure. What do you think about the side profile of the R design if you compare it to the other trims? And also a sporty look in the rear, especially with this lower bumper right there. And then again, fake exhaust tips all the way. And another seat alternative would be the R design trim level. Here you got microfiber on the inside and supposed to be animal skin on the outside. Well, I mean, at least you go also for a microfiber decision, also good for the climate comfort and sportier, because you don't slide around in the seat so much, and the seat also has a little bit more shoulder support. So this would be an alternative if you go with a very high trim level. And also different R design steering wheel here, contrast stitches on the inside, and the steering wheel form itself is also a little bit different. Also the R design rather not features wood, but here an aluminum style, and an interesting Easter egg here, a silhouette of a Sweden flag. Then hydraulic studs, as we used to from Volvo. This one here is the D4 diesel engine. I mean, all engines, petrol and diesel, are 2-liter displacement and 4-cylinder. This one here 190 horsepower, the smaller diesel. Then there's also a 235 variant available. And petrol engines at the moment, there is a 250 horsepower and also 320. And this 320 horsepower variant can also be combined with hybrids. This is then the T8, so 320 plus about 80 horsepower from the electric engine. It's a plug-in hybrid, same as with the XC90. That one is, is the future engine. That one, it's most up to date. This acceleration here about 8.4 seconds, by the way, to 100 kilometers. Consumption-wise, very interesting. The Volvo engines do consume a lot of fuel. 8.5 liter on 1 kilometers is our test result with this engine for today. And the petrol engines are way above 10 liters. It's actually fun. I mean, at some point you say maybe, is it good to have very light steering wheel? I'm not exactly sure. Does it feel unnatural? Yes, in a way it does feel unnatural. Still wants to, no, got the other bridge now. But then again, especially when cruising around in the city, it's so easy to do that. Start-stop function. Here the engine is silent now, but I'm not the biggest fan of start-stop function because on the long-term run they're really not good for the engine. We experienced that in the Total laboratory in France. They explained that when they tested the engine on a long-term run. It's more a thing to get the fleet consumption down for the manufacturer. It's not really helping you. So when you're going some slalom here at about 50, again the steering wheel is basically dead. It feels Arcade game style alike. So again, for the city driving, this is helpful because and for parking in and out, that really helps you. You don't need to have any power in your hands. If you rather think about a sportier approach, then it wouldn't really match that. Then again, Volvo is not the brand that says we are in this sporty region, so I think that's still okay. If it is a BMW, for example, I would expect something different then, for example. We will soon also test the different driving modes we have available. The overview here to the sides. well, the windows are rather upright, and this bright interior also helps to get the overview because everything looks so bright and clean. And although it has some interesting design features on the exterior, you have a good roundabout overview from the inside. And then you also have, if you really need it, the optional camera systems available, so you could use those ones too. Then if I go to the right arrow here, I also have the pilot assist. And you should not do that what I'm doing at the moment. It's just for display purposes, and I'm really keeping my hands in close proximity all the time. Just want to show you that this car already has the capability of driving itself. Now it says apply steering. So then I have to get the steering wheel again. Otherwise the system would deactivate because it's not meant to drive itself completely yet. It could theoretically, technically, but the governmental regulations are not that far. That will come over the years now. It is definitely a first step to that, or maybe I would rather say a second step already to that, because it does work. Here now again, left corner, well, okay. I mean, you see in those situations, sometimes you think, shall I trust the machine right now or shall I not? And sometimes I'm not really 100% sure yet. You see, most of the time it works quite well, but of course, again, it's not meant to do that. Just to show you that it's already basically working. So let's go to the dynamic mode, see what this car got. Yeah, we're in dynamic mode. And let's do some 70 to, let's see, I think we can even have unlimited speed here. So far, by the way, before I really apply the throttle right now, as for consumption, with this traffic and stuff, 13 liters. What? Okay, we'll take another look at that later. Okay, now we got a little bit down there, but let's just have the throttle off. 85, and bam. 100. 120. 140. 150. 160. 170, and that's enough. So I mean, this diesel engine here is totally enough. It's not really explosive in a way. Sound insulation wise, well, it's still okay. I mean, we're driving 160 kilometers an hour now. I think we had, you know, in some Mercedes or Audi a little bit better result at higher speeds, but then again, this is only a German thing. No other car market in the world drives 160 or 170 on the motorways because it's just not allowed. Now at 130, which is a reasonable speed then for here. Car behaves quite well. Exterior-wise, definitely a beauty. I think we can agree on that. If not, put it in the comments. Alongside maybe the Jaguar F-Pace. I think those ones are my favorite in design from the exterior. Not too different though from the predecessor model, but especially the front is more modern, and you have trim level differences also. You can really pick your favorite one. The interior, really refined. They are back on their game now. The very first XC90 reviews we did, they did something completely new there, and some of the details were like, okay, but not super premium. They have fixed the little details now. I think the build quality now is really great, even better than in the current XC90 models. Also, the styling is a little bit more sensual, definitely, and you have great options. You just have to go with the also lower or mid trim levels. If you go for the high trim levels, prices will rocket, unbelievably. So, but I've mentioned earlier, especially with those city weave option, you have a good fabric leather red option, for example, which is sustainable, good from climate comfort, and also very attractive in design and price. The vehicle as it stands here today, although there's just the 190 horsepower diesel in it, with the inscription trim and all the extras, almost 80,000 euros, so you double the price. But that's again not necessary. So if you, for example, go with a small petrol engine and then go with a middle trim level, and you know, the AEB, for example, the city emergency brake is included anyway, some other important features included. You maybe get the rear view camera and good sound system. Then you can
score at, let's say, a very good XC60, I would say about 50,000 euros. And then you still have something very attractive, but which is not super, super high in price yet. Driving-wise, very interesting. It feels and handles better than the XC90 because, I mean, it's the same modular architecture they're using for this one here than with the XC90. But still, as it's smaller, it's more agile, better to drive, more fun to drive. It's not the real sporty SUV. That is rather, you know, if you go with the BMW X4, X3, or with the Mercedes GLC 43. But with the air suspension, you get superb comfort. You can also pick it with the dynamic mode, but you can also just pick the standard suspension. You will totally fine by that. And if you want it a little bit sportier, go with the R design. Then you also have it a little bit stiffer. So possibilities are there, but the main emphasis is on comfort. And together, for example, with the new assistance systems, they are working really flawlessly, and thus a very comfortable ride, and also aiming towards semi-autonomous drive, which worked very well in traffic. So, a lot of positive things to say about this vehicle. On the negative side, well, the trunk cover, which is raising up automatically up, didn't raise automatically down again. I'm not sure why. That was a little bit strange to me, just a minor detail. So, and now, thank you again for tuning into Autogefühl. Always remember to activate the notifications. So next to the subscribe button on our channel, there's the small bell. And check that you got this one activated, that you always get the information that we upload some new videos. And just bookmark autogefuel.com. Then you can always go back to our site that you don't miss any of our reviews. Thanks for tuning in.
And now to the conclusion of our comparison episode. And I will also give you my personal thoughts very soon. That will be a very close one. The Porsche Macan has the sportiest 911-like design and also the sportiest ride, even in the base version. However, in the interior, it's quite dated meanwhile, even after the facelift with a new infotainment system. And the prices are quite ridiculous. For some, the ride might also not be comfortable enough. The Macan is the only SUV in this test which is not offered as PHEV. The next generation Macan, however, will be all electric. Current fuel economy is also not that good with the Porsche Macan. The Mercedes GLC has a very elegant design. Also, the interior is quite sensual. Mercedes offers the best and widest variety of animal-friendly and sustainable seating choices. And the GLC also offers the most comfortable air suspension. The updated infotainment system with the facelift also shows the best natural voice control of all those cars. In recent German TÜV ratings, the GLC won also the best car for the whole market, making it maybe the most reliable vehicle built in the experienced Mercedes plant in Bremen in the north of Germany. I say maybe because there are always different reliable ratings and they all look, at different testing results. You can never be 100% sure. Although offering MF systems now, the Mercedes engines still consume too much fuel. The BMW X3 has a conservative exterior. The interior quality is meanwhile also very good, even though it's not super exciting. Best thing about the X3 is the natural and fun driving feeling. The Macan is sporty, yes, but the X3 is the ride with the most fun, without any compromise on comfort. The BMW adaptive suspensions are awesome, so you don't usually miss the air suspension option right here. The BMW 6 cylinders are probably the best combustion engines generally said, although we had the 4-cylinder for a better comparison in this test. All the BMW engines seem to consume a little bit less fuel than their competitors. The Audi Q5 is also very conservative on the outside. The interior is meanwhile also a little bit dated. Also, the interior is really clean and simple, less sensual than with the competitors, however also with good build quality. But you do see some coast cutting in some parts here and there, for example at the inside of the doors. The offering of space on the interior is among the best. The ride is a good mix of sportiness and comfort. Fuel economy is only good with the diesels. The Volvo XC60 offers a great different design, both exterior and interior, and also comes with a wonderful Scandinavian interior, especially with bright colors and the so-called city weave seats that come with a mix of fabric and leatherette, if you can pick those in your market. Also, the seating form itself is absolutely excellent and ergonomic, probably the best seat hardware in the test. The ride is the least sporty one of all the SUVs we tested. Also, the fuel economy of the combustion engines is the worst, so a PHEV would be the best choice, especially if you can recharge frequently. So where does that leave us? First, tell us your pick for today. All those SUVs are very refined and luxurious vehicles, and they are all somewhat among top of their game, and you'll have a lot of fun with all of them. Sadly, this premium midsize SUV segment seems to have an issue with fuel economy overall. They already consume as much fuel as the very large SUVs. Important questions to decide here are how sporty or how comfortable you want to have it, and how sensual or how clean you like the design. Because, as stated, all of these SUVs fill a certain niche somehow. My pick for the exterior would be the Volvo XC60 or the Porsche Macan. As for the interior styling, I would go with the Volvo XC60 or the Mercedes GLC. The interior functionality is best with the Mercedes GLC now, followed by the BMW X3. The fun driving experience is most convincing with the BMW X3 overall, with the Porsche Macan if you want it sportier. The Audi Q5 does everything very well and is, so to say, a perfect all-rounder that merges all the features. Still, for me, I would like to have a more characterful vehicle. I would love the XC60 exterior, the XC60 interior, excluding their infotainment, or the GLC interior with their fabric and Alcantara seats and their MBUX infotainment system, as well as a natural sporty ride of the BMW X3. Yeah, this is a really tough one, but when I had to decide right here and right now, I'd probably try to get either BMW X3 PHEV with Sensatec seats and enjoy the natural steering and the most perfect adaptive suspension, or a Mercedes GLC PHEV with fabric Artico or Dynamica Artico seating mix in the AMG line, enjoy the natural voice control and pick the most comfortable ride with their Airmatic air suspension. Also, the noise insulation is best with the GLC. So far we have compared them and it didn't take any pricing into account. Let's take a look at that, because that can also change things. Sometimes there are special offers for a certain brand, and let's say a Volvo dealer would hand me the car at 10k cheaper than all of the other ones, or for the most decent leasing rate, then I'll also take that. I did some test configurations in the US and German configurator, all cars with a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine and a similar horsepower stage, with many options, some options tick, but not all of those, for example, for infotainment and assistance systems. So not too high spec overall. Of course, you can get them even more expensive. Interesting finding, both in the US and Germany, the Porsche Macan is clearly the most expensive one, so more expensive than all the others, like at least 5,000 to 10,000 euros more, or $5,000 to $10,000 more. In Germany, you pay around 60,000 euros for mid-spec of these SUVs, in the US about $50,000. However, German prices already include VAT. And as I said, the Porsche Macan is always above that price level. Mercedes GLC, Audi Q5 and Volvo XC60 are pretty similar in both cases. Strangely, just the BMW X3 differs quite a lot in pricing from the German to the US market, making it a little bit more expensive than GLC, Q5 and X3 in the US, but clearly cheaper than these in the German market. Even stranger, because the X3 is actually built in the US and not in Germany. I really love the Volvo XC60 for many features, but when buying at the very same price, I would sadly just be a little bit put off by the unconnected steering and riding feel, as well as by the infotainment control input. Or maybe I should try another test ride again in the XC60 PHEV with City Weave interior? What do you think, guys? The Audi is very, very good, but indeed doesn't convey enough character to me and joy as the other ones. The Macan is nice and sporty, but just too expensive, and at some point maybe also lacking in comfort and overrun by some features of the other competitors. So which one would you like to see me in? Volvo XC60, Macan, Q5, GLC or X3? And after my recent test rides, I'd probably lean towards the Mercedes GLC or take the X3 if it's at the end of the day, the clearly cheaper car in my market, which seems to be the case in the German market, at least at the moment. Yeah, still thinking about the XC60 still, because it's also lovely in so many points, but yeah, at the end of the day, you have to decide for something.